Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to have you at Newman Lumen on this gloomy Thursday morning. I'm Reverend Julie Tonneson, for those of you I may not have the pleasure of knowing, and we're so grateful to have y'all with us today. We are in for a treat, as I selfishly think we are every Thursday, but we are going to begin our time together today hearing from Clay Stevenson, who is a senior lecturer in music here at Elon, where he's taught since 2011. He is the coordinator of the Music Production and Recording Arts Program, director of Tektronica, advisor of Limelight Records and Sweet Signatures. He has extensive professional experience as a music creator, audio engineer, and producer specializing in popular music. His music is licensed by Voltage Pictures, Kenilworth Film Productions, Vision Film and Television Productions, KAP Music, and Noma Music Libraries, just to name a few. He resides in Chapel Hill with his wife, their kids, and Black Lab, and we are overjoyed to welcome Clay this morning.
So, as it happens, every now and again you get a song that gets stuck in your playlist, and maybe there's a reason for that. So this song is called Last Day on Earth by Ty Verdes, and it encourages us to kind of keep in mind this age-old adage of living each day like it's your last. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, and it has me thinking about what's important. So is it the material things that we have, or the institutions that we are part of, or is it the friends that we have, the relationships, Mother Nature? So this is Last Day on Earth.
If it was my last day on earth, if it was my last day, if it was my last day on earth, if it was my last day, if I close my eyes and the sun don't rise, will I be okay? If it was my last day on earth, if it was my last day, if it was my last day on earth, I wouldn't be in church. Sorry God, but it's my last day in this universe. I need to see birds and buzzing bees, green grass, evergreen trees, and seeing people who have been mean to me. Why would I waste my time when all my favorite people need teary-eyed goodbyes? I wanna laugh, love, give a bunch of hard high fives. I did my best, man, give me a good try. My last day on earth, if it was my last day, if it was my last day on earth, if it was my last day, if I close my eyes and the sun don't rise, will I be okay? If it was my last day on earth, if it was my last day, wait, you're telling me I got 24 of these 60-minute things left? Damn, I ain't get to be a billionaire yet. Ride around first class, private jet, flex, shoes, a black K-Mex, forget about the duplexes, buy a Lexus, take a road trip to a spaceship, and I'ma get on, blast up in the sky, and I'll be gone. I gave too much just to see one more thought. If it was my last day on earth, if it was my last day, if it was my last day on earth, if it was my last day, if I close my eyes and the sun don't rise, will I be okay? If it was my last day on earth, if it was my last day.
Thank you, Clay, for helping to lift spirits and moods already this morning. As those of you who are frequent flyers at Newman Lumen will know, our theme for this year has been me in my own words. And our hope with this theme is that we've been able to create a space where we're able to get to know folks behind the titles or the email signatures or the many other ways that we use to identify people here at Elon. So today, we are so pleased to welcome Dr. Connie Ledoux-Book to share a little bit about what makes her her. Dr. Connie Ledoux-Book is a passionate advocate for higher education and its power to transform students' lives. As Elon's 9th president, Dr. Book has launched the ambitious 10-year Boldly Elon strategic plan to advance the university's national leadership in engaged learning and experiential education. In accordance with the strategic goals within Boldly Elon, President Book has created additional opportunities for students to experience positive transformation of the body, mind, and spirit. President Book has provided leadership for new investments in health and wellness in the creation of Health EU, the university's holistic wellness initiative, established by the Division of Inclusive Excellence, expanded professional development for faculty and staff, and continues to implement lifelong learning opportunities for alumni. With President Book's strategic vision, Elon has set a bold course for the future. So please help me in welcoming President Connie Book.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Clay, for the great music. I actually interviewed Clay when he was applying at Elon, and I was in a different role, and been really grateful he was one of the first to raise his hand to teach in Los Angeles he's really excited about our Elon in LA and has just mentored and supported students. So it was great to hear him actually sing this morning. As president, I do have the microphone a lot. But I did wake up a little anxious about this time because just talking, usually I'm talking about Elon and so today to reflect on, I appreciated the prompts of thinking about untold stories that we might have that influence our daily work and who we are and how we approach things. So I'm going to share a couple of stories about growing up that I have in my pocket that affect the way I approach things. And so today happens to also be the second day of Women's Month, I'm just going to say. So I was thinking about, part of this story is reflecting on being a daughter. And it's also Lent. And I am a Catholic, and it's a period of time as I've gotten older that I understand more. Because to be honest, growing up Catholic, I kneel down, stand up, and I memorize the prayers, but they don't always have meaning. And so as I've gotten older, it's had more meaning to me. And Lent is really, for me, this paradox of struggle and as a vehicle to a relationship with God, and and the paradox of that. So I often think, why do bad things happen, and why is it that those are the moments that end up being the pathway to a greater relationship with God and if a higher power, because it is when we feel the most vulnerable, right? I feel the most vulnerable when I'm struggling and lean on power greater than myself. So hopefully there's something you can use in this story that I'm going to share about. And at my inauguration, so March 1st, yesterday was actually 5 years since my inauguration, since I started the job at Elon, March 1st. I wore this shirt on my first day of the job, so I wore it today. It was great. I was pleased it still fit me. But one of the really exciting things that happened at my inauguration is that all 8 of my brothers and sisters came. And to be honest, if you think about the passages in life that normally it's like you have a family funeral or a wedding, but I had an inauguration, which I jokingly said is kind of like a wedding, because they put this big chain around your neck and say, you're bound together, and you take an oath. But I was really pleased that education, I shared this story a little bit, that education played a really big role in my family. Both of my parents grew up in South Louisiana, and I have this really cute picture of my mom where she's 6 years old and she's carrying a big burlap. She had to pick cotton at 6 years old, so she got this big bag and she's picking cotton, and they each had a bag to fill. So she and my dad both knew hard work from an early age, and it was a sharecropping system, so there was never the capacity to have any wealth. They did not speak English, so they never owned the land. They worked someone else's land. And they didn't speak English till they went to school. It was a very French culture and very isolated, right? They had their own community, but my dad joined the military so he could go to college on the GI Bill. And at the time, women really had, I'm really talking to students here, that if you were a woman, you had 3 choices in career. You were either going to be a teacher, a nurse, or a secretary. And so just about all of my mom's siblings chose nursing, and there's a few teachers in there too. But my mom decided to be a nurse and went to Charity Hospital in New Orleans to train to be a nurse. And they would get married. My mom was 20, my dad 22, and have 9 children in 11 years. Right? And so, shoop, 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 shoop. And my dad majored in physics, and I ended up going to get his PhD, which was a big moment for our family because we loaded up the station wagon and he went to the University of Oregon on a federal program to earn his PhD. And the move was not really I don't think his family really understood, what was happening. They were not part of education, but I think about what a risk that was to load up 9 kids. And we pulled up at Married Student Housing. I can still see the woman's face coming out of Married Student Housing to look at all the people in the car. For our housing people, they had 2-bedroom units, and they were looking at those 9 kids. They put us in a nice apartment. But I want to talk about my relationship with my father, who he grew up in a really violent family situation, and he metaphorically I still carry him. He's passed away, but I still talk about him in the present tense because he metaphorically was such a powerful person in our lives. He was only 5'11", so he wasn't like any real tall, but he was, he was very passionate. He, had a lot of rules. He was scary, and he was violent. And so I'm not going to go into all the details of that, but just let's say this was and still continues to be the most significant figure in my life is my father. And at the time I thought, he's just angry. I didn't understand. And then I had this moment with my own son. I have 2 kids, a daughter and a son. My daughter's in Raleigh. She's an attorney there, and my son's in grad school at NC State. He's an Elon grad too. But my son was 8 years old, and he had gotten a bicycle, and we had a long driveway, and he was going up and down and he had a helmet, so he was wearing a helmet, but he lost control of the bike and hit a tree. And his leg was trapped under the bike, and I go running over to that tree, and I'm standing over him, and I'm like, Joe, are you hurt? Joe, are you hurt? And he looks at me, and he's, 8 years old, he's like, yeah, he's kind of crying. He said, yeah. He said, why are you mad? And I said, because I'm scared. And then that's when it dawned on me that my dad, it's like a few days later, I was thinking about my angry father, and I thought, oh, he was afraid. And I had this, I don't know what it's like to have 9 kids and be a school teacher in South Louisiana. But my dad, it made me realize so much of his anger was fear. And that has been such a gift to look at him differently in the stories I carry differently around fear. You're not going to believe this, but I was the black sheep of the family. That's true. And, so let's start black sheep of the family. You're thinking I probably was like drinking, sneaking out, those kinds of stories. But the truth is that I did not. There were 3 of us in my family. My oldest brother, Kirk, so the oldest of all of us, he would be the first to challenge my dad and the first to leave home. And then me, I was 6th. And my youngest brother, Paul, who Clay reminds me a lot of, very creative, but he struggled with math. And the 3 of us, for whatever reason, we triggered our father. I think it's because I was the one that would often say, why? So this made me the black sheep because he was very much, thumb on, why are we doing that? And he did not like having to explain it to me. And then sometimes I did something really horrible, and I would say, no. Okay, so it was my independence. And now I realize that he was afraid of that. He was scared. And I think, too, just to say, as a woman, I think it especially made him afraid. And as I got older and more independent, his violence got worse. And I would move out permanently after an episode of our house when I was 19. Okay, so I'm the sixth. There are 5 girls, 4 boys, and I had 1 younger sister. So when I moved out, I took her with me. I said, Monique's coming with me. And I still, she started college that year, so we were in college together at LSU. So I think about that willfulness that I was demonstrating, and that scared him. And there's a scene in our living room. My dad had us all watch Richard Nixon resign. For people my age, this was a little older. This was a big moment. Our president had been impeached and was resigning. It was a big moment. And Walter Cronkite, we had been watching there's a lot of news coverage every night. So we were watching the news, and Walter Cronkite came on, and so picture the scene, a TV, all 9 kids, my mom and dad, and I was so impressed with Walter Cronkite at 8 years old. I asked my dad, do they let women do that job? And, at the time, all the news people were men, so I was like, do they let girls do that? And my sister, Christine, said, no, you can't do that. But my dad said that I could be anything I wanted to be. And so I carry that vote of confidence with me and remember those bright moments in what was, a complicated relationship I had with him. So just to give perspective, too, on where's the mother in the story. So my mom had these 9 children in 11 years, and she worked full-time as a nurse. And she took the night shift so that she could work while we slept, so she could be there in the morning to help us get to school, and then would take a nap during the day until we got home. So she also, this is the 60s and 70s, so even though women were now working as nurses, teachers, and secretaries, they still, and this is probably, I think, most of the women in here think about your mother, they still took on most of the household duties. So my mom was doing, the cooking, and, so she was trying to manage the household. And even to the girls in the house, we had the chores like the cooking, the laundry. We did like 6 loads of laundry a day. So my job was to fold the clothes and save, and it's French, but it's a French expression, but we'd save the dishes, which means to put away the dishes. It's from the French verb sauver, so I'd sauve the dishes. My nickname was Tété Crotte from my dad, which was little shit. I remember my mom in 1981 showing me her first credit card. I was at the time in 10th grade, and she's like, look, Connie, and it had her name on it. And she kept it in a drawer, and she never used it. But, because debt, is a scary thing. But just saying that to offer, this was life, and how different things are today. I mean, in such 40 years, in such a short time, really. So, right, I'm that women truly can be, I believe, anything they want to be, and it's such a short time. But because of this relationship with my father, and because he was unpredictable, I started I did not want to be in his view, right? So there were 9 of us, so I was trying to not be in the view. So what I would do is, he always got home at 5:15. So at 5 o'clock, I would go walk his route to make sure there was nothing of mine that he would see. So I would, he'd come in from the door, the back door we came. I didn't leave my shoes there, my books, nothing so that there would be nothing to trigger him to think of me. And what this created was this real situational awareness about my environment. right? And I still have a really high situational awareness. And when things, when I see things out of sorts, I note them. That when things don't seem right. So because of that heightened sensitivity around me, I have learned how to navigate difficulty. And it's been a strength during that time. So I also, because I was trying to stay out of the lens, spent a lot of time alone. And this is, when people say, oh, you have 8 brothers and sisters, it must have been a big, nope. I would say we all were off in our corners, right? And, but in that, I sought out reading. My mom would take us to the library. I saw a student yesterday, and her purse was actually the library card that we used to have, where you'd sign your name, and you could check out 13 books. So my mom, we would, up to each user, and so it was a real gift, the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. But I also, this is where I started to have a spiritual sense. Like, okay, this is where I thought, started to realize I really wasn't alone. And this is that reflection time that it gave me. So situational awareness, being good in a crisis when emotions are high. And the truth is, when emotions are high, I stay relatively calm. It drives the senior team a little crazy that I sit with indecision longer. They all want to, and I'm like, oh, let's sit with this for a little while. That I don't have a knee jerk. I'm pretty calm. And it's from this, growing up in this uncertainty that I can sit, and if somebody wants to be angry, I'm pretty level. Right? I used to tell General Rosa at the Citadel, I said, you got nothing on Clarence, who was my father. So I can sit with that and stay level-headed and make decisions in that uncertainty, anger, and confusion that is often part of stories around violence. So I'll close with this job. I ended up, my sister Monique is really bright. And my dad, when I turned 15, which was the legal working age, my dad said, Monique's going to get a scholarship, but I think you should go ahead and get a part-time job and save for college. And so he took me to apply for my first job. It ended up being at Kmart. And it was close to the house. And boy, was that the best thing that ever happened to me. That this job really, it taught me a lot about people. I worked the service desk where people made refunds. But it was great. I met great people. But my first job at Kmart was working the register, and the cashier, so this is in the olden days when they didn't have swipe scans, you actually punched in the price. And I was 15 years old, and we're all working, and I noticed, because my situational awareness is high, that the cashier next to me, my age, her friends were coming through the line periodically, but rather than the real price of the item, she would charge them like 10 cents. And so I saw that happening. And when you see wrongdoing, I don't know about you all, but you get a knot in your stomach and you think, oh no, it's not gonna go well. And so one of the managers told me to turn off my light and to come help stock some things on the shelf. Mr. Thompson. And so we're back there, I'm helping him stock, and he says, Connie, did the woman next to you do this? He said, I was watching they had like cameras on some kind of thing he could see her, and I saw her friends come through the line. Did this happen? So then I'm in a moment. And all of us have these moments, like, well, are you going to do the right thing, or are you going to do the wrong thing? Are you going? And so I told him that she was doing, that I decided to tell him, yes, she was doing it. But, so she was stealing, and she was helping others steal. So literally, the police came. She was escorted out in handcuffs. They added, it was a felony because of the amount. So that moment taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about, this gut instinct about acting with integrity, and two, about the quality of our life if we don't. Because I have other stories that I'm not telling you all where I didn't always do the right thing. And I carry those, and that always helps me do the right thing, because I carry those in my pocket of when I didn't stop somebody from gossiping is one I remember in 8th grade. And, I didn't act with integrity in that moment. So when I hear people gossiping, I'm like, hey, that's not my experience with them. And, she's a friend. And I don't let it pass me because I have that in my pocket of regret that I didn't do it then. And the situational awareness of what I see you, I see all of you, because I have, right? I see you. And that's a gift from this living in that environment. Even Vice President Williams was asking me something one day, and I said, I see her, Randy. I see her, and I can't not see her, right? It's like, so I see, and it is a gift. So I will close with, some people call that sixth sense. I would say, actually, it's a byproduct of life that our experiences cause us to carry different stories and to see people, and we bring it into every situation. And that, so as an adult and this awareness about my father, and as I've worked through that, I definitely have this realization that I'm not alone, that God's with me. I start with a morning prayer, good morning, God. Just to remember I'm not alone, that in all of us, that we have this force, this higher power, and that I'm so grateful for, because who wants to be alone and in charge? Yeah. So I will say, I had one of these sixth senses in 2015, and it was J-term. Martin Luther King, it was the Wednesday before Martin Luther King Day, that I should go home. And I even complained to the provost then, I don't want to go, but I feel like I need to go. And he's like, just go, we're closed on Monday, just go. If you're feeling like you need to go, go. And I really didn't, for whatever reason, did not want to go, but I went. And my dad had fallen and had a jaw surgery, and he was fine, he was at home, and but it just so happened that it was the Tuesday after Martin Luther King Day. I had a cup of coffee with my mom and dad. My dad liked to do the crossword puzzle. We had done one. He was yelling at the TV, the news on the TV. It was like just that normal morning. And I had gone to help my mom clean the bathrooms. And on his bathroom mirror, he had taped a prayer. And it's it's from the big books of, he wasn't an alcoholic, but it was from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they call it the third step prayer. And it's a prayer where you say, God, free me from the bondage of self so that I can be in service to others. And I read it and I thought, I cannot believe my dad has that prayer on. It was like, but it's a great message. It's like, just if you can get out of your own head, right, then you can see people and be of service to people. And so I read that prayer, and literally 30 seconds later, my dad called out because he was having a spontaneous blood clot, and he called out. I went to the room. We realized I called my mom in. She's a nurse, and we could tell we needed to call 911. My mom went to call 911, and I'm standing over my father, and he is dying. And I said, God, not me, not me, not me, right? I literally in that moment said, God, please not me right now. And my dad passed away. And so I was there. I was able to help my mother, help arrange the funeral, help do all that. But I called one of my friends from church, and I was like, can you believe it was me? Because I know, too, the conflict that we had, But my dad would say, my dad and I ended up having a very honest relationship. where he would say things like, "But look how good you turned out." And I would say, in spite of Dad, I would not give him a free pass on anything. And but I loved him, and he loved me. And the truth is, now I realize, thank God I was the one there, because I have this freedom about our relationship that my siblings don't have, because they weren't there, right? That moment allowed me to be free and to let my dad go. And really grateful for that. And so you wouldn't think, but it's the struggle. It's in the struggle that I've found the peace and the strength. So I'm grateful for that moment. And thank you to Stephen House, because he said go. And I know if he hadn't have pushed me to go, I wouldn't have gone. But it's like trusting that sixth sense, and the people in community around us that help us. So thank you. Thanks very much.
This song is called 100 Bad Days by AJR. And I feel like President Connie book epitomizes this song because it talks about these 100 bad days that, in perspective, you can turn them around. And if you aren't scared of these bad days, you can make some great things happen. Real quick, I just want to thank the students that helped me out with this, and I want to have them just tell us their names really quickly to give them some credit.
I'm Cecily Weinstein.
I'm Elizabeth Cerrito.
I'm Tabby Spell.
I'm Greg Hall.
I'm Anthony Hodakainen.
Thank you, Clay. Thank you, students, for such a beautiful ending to our time together today. And thank you, Dr. Book, for saying yes. It's not lost on me that there are probably many other places and many other things that you could have been doing this morning, perhaps that senior staff would have even preferred that you were doing. But I'm incredibly grateful that you were here to share your time, and not only to share your time, but to share your story and to help us to know a little better what it is that makes you the person and the president and the woman you are today. So thank you for sharing those moments of challenge and struggle, and ultimately joy and resiliency with us. I know I'm better for it, and I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say that we all are. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks again to each of you for being here today, for taking a few moments out of your Thursday morning to stop and pause and listen to stories of what makes Elon Elon. Next week, we at the Truett Center are collaborating with the Global Education Center for a special Newman Lumen where we'll be hearing stories and music from some of our international students. So we do hope that you will join us for that time, same place, same time next week. Before you head about your busy days today, we hope that you might take just 2 more minutes to grab a cup of coffee or some of the treats in the back, and just say hello, perhaps, to someone you haven't seen in a little bit or someone who's been on your mind. But until we meet again, be well, be safe, and thanks again for being here.